Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So welcome to another new video on my YouTube channel, and I hope everyone had a wonderful week. So in today's vlog video, I'll be sharing my creation process of these two pages with very detailed tips on how I sketched this golden leafy tunnel somewhere in my neighborhood. Okay, and then flipping to the next page spread, I'll be giving very detailed explanations on how I created these two pages. So this one here on the right that I sketched first, as you can see, is my fur baby dudu laying down for a nap on my chair in the kitchen with the red maple leaves glowing right outside the kitchen window. So we're very lucky to have a lot of beautiful maple trees outside our windows. And I also sketched this red rose bouquet that my parents bought for their wedding anniversary in this pretty special white heron vase, and this ceramic. And I bought this from a vintage store many years ago. So if you have the same white heron vase, just let me know. And yeah, let's go. So after the 2-day trip in Victoria, I took a break on Tuesday, and on Wednesday I'm back again at art journaling, sketching my afternoon tea with my mom's homemade red bean pastry and a bottle of peach soda that I bought from Ferry Market in Victoria. And after a good nap in the afternoon, I decided to sketch the half-bare maple tree right outside my bedroom window, sitting on my bed, and the sunset sky, with these cozy colors. So I'm punching on pure permanent red over red orange, and a bit of purple, to shade a little bit. And I really want to sketch this view before the leaves are all gone in the next few days. And then the next day, Thursday, fine weather again, so I'm sitting outside, somewhere in my neighborhood. So here's my gooseneck foam clamp attached to the drawing board. And I'm going to sketch this beautiful golden tunnel in front of me. We're starting to draw the trees on the left side of the lane. As you can see, these trees are visually bigger and bigger as they move closer to us. And the bottom of these tree trunks are also visually lower and lower down on paper as they move closer to us. Same idea for these trees on the right. As you can see, that foreground tree's root is so low on the paper, adding a middle ground person walking her dog. Starting to doodle these leaves and branches for this foreground tree. And so these leaves are pretty easy to summarize compared to maple trees. And growing this tree higher and higher. Now, I'm drawing this dog, which is actually from another person. A pretty fluffy one. And doodle some more leaves in the middle ground. Drawing the horizontal line of the fence. And drawing some more twigs on the higher level of the trees. So leaves closer up, they're drawn bigger size, and the leaves more far away, they're kind of like little dots. Now it's time to bring life to this scenery by using watercolor painting techniques. So I started with this cadmium yellow, blending on a little bit of orange. Oh, here, I'm getting a gift from the tree. Mixing cadmium yellow with a little bit of Naples yellow. Most of the leaves are yellowish, nice and bright. And more gifts from the trees. This is the mix of yellow-green with cadmium yellow, and also hooker's green with cadmium yellow, because I think one of the trees are still mostly green. And now I want to shade the yellow leaves a bit by mixing cadmium yellow with orange. Yeah, just these faint little blocks, giving the yellow leaves a higher sense of volume. And I just mix orange with a little bit of permanent red to shade these leaves a little heavier. Some of the leaves are orange and red-brown. And I'm painting the leaves on the ground using the same procedure. Yeah, yellow first, and then yellow-green, a bit heavier green, nice and loose. Suggesting trees on the other side of the street, using red, orange, and also a bit of green. Using the mix of olive green and olive brown to paint these tree trunks. Grabbing some leftover shade of green to suggest the shrubberies behind the gates. Grabbing some red orange, yeah, to make these leaves looking fancier. Using blue violet to shade the gaps of the lane without leaves. Using the mix of burnt sienna into hooker's green to shade the lawn areas, yeah, without leaves. Yeah, and I'm going to continue to mix burnt sienna into hooker's green to boldly shade these leaves on the trees. Nice and heavy. So if you want to suggest a good sense of volume, you do have to shade very boldly. Now, these green trees or clusters of leaves, they no longer look too flat. They're much more dynamic with higher contrast. And same for these yellow, orange, and brown leaves. So I'm using diluted burnt sienna mixed with Van Dyke brown. I'm using pure Van Dyke brown to shade these tree trunks. Some edges of these tree trunks are glowing, so I'm not over shading. Yeah, using Van Dyke brown to sharpen these twigs. Here's the look of my finished sketch and the whole page spread. And now I'm back home and teaching the children's art class in my home studio. Acrylic painting on thick watercolor paper. And as you can see, different age groups, different styles, and this is like a very basic watercolor technique to practice. It also trains the young minds to be focused on the present. And then it's Friday, another fresh new day. Here's my fur baby Dudu laying down on my chair by the dining table. Yeah, he just woke up. Now back to the same position again. Thanks. Now I'm using super gentle hand pressure of my Sailor's Fude fountain pen with a 55-degree bent nib. The contour outline of Dudu's body, the tail. Now I'm using heavier lines to draw the head, which is upside down. And yeah, you really have to trust your observation when drawing things upside down. And then using slightly heavier but choppier lines to draw the contour outlines of the paws. And using rapid, choppy lines to suggest the masquerade mask and the fur, the big fluffy tail, and more fur texture dividing the black and white furry areas. So to make fur texture looking more real, you really have to look more deeply to see the direction of growth. And you don't have to draw every single hair. Just draw the ones that are looking pretty dominant compared to the rest. Now I'm drawing the square cushion. That's the top of the cushion, suggesting the volume by adding more parallel lines and the contour outline of the chair, back of the chair, the carved lines. Now I'm using this brown Staedtler brush pen to draw a frame for the window view. And then drawing these major branches and hang these leaves on the twigs, drawing the shape of the roof of my neighbor's house, windows. And composing art journal pages like this is really fun. A sense of juxtaposition using this simple collaging technique. Now I'm spending more time and patience doodling those red maple leaves. Here's a look of my finished line drawing. Now it's time to breathe life into everything using watercolor washes. So there's a bit of sunshine pushing through the clouds near the horizon. So there's some yellow and orange there, very diluted. Most of the sky is overcast, painted using diluted cobalt blue, mixed with permanent violet. And mixing a bit of hooker's green into the leftover blue violet to suggest some distant trees. Using Van Dyke brown to paint the roof. And very shaded or muted green for the trees behind the house. Now I'm using a bit sharper brush marks to paint the leaves. This is the mix of orange with permanent red. The first move, painting red leaves, is not the true red yet. Now I'm punching on pure permanent red with a little bit of permanent rose mixed into it. A little less watery compared to the previous layer. Now I'm using the mix of olive green and olive brown to paint these branches. And grabbing Van Dyke brown, yeah, pretty intense, to shade one side of these branches. And a bit heavier shading, yeah, using Van Dyke brown. Now it's time to paint the furry dudu. So the first layer I just did was very diluted yellow ochre. Now second layer wet into wet, Van Dyke brown mixed with a bit of black. And third layer wet into wet, pure black. Yeah, so this is how we can, generate a sense of volume, painting black furred areas. Okay, so now it's time to paint the mahogany chair using mostly burnt sienna with a little bit of permanent red mixed into it. A little bit of value transition as I go. Some part of the redwood is a little bit lighter in tone. And I mix permanent violet into burnt sienna to generate a shading tone for brown things. And now it's time to paint the cushion. I'm using diluted Naples yellow and stain some Naples yellow on Dudu's white furry area. And using leftover blue violet to shade the cushion. Stronger blue violet to add on the shadow of Dudu landing on the cushion. Very diluted gray to shade the white furry area. So now I want to add on another layer of black for Dudu's black furry area. This is like pure black. And using brush marks following the fur growth direction. So painting many layers for fur as well as hair is good, suggesting a higher sense of volume. Using blue violet to shade the wall behind the chair. And here's a look of my finished painting. My parents just came back with their bouquet of red roses. Now, yeah, it's raining outside. Like half an hour later, I was downstairs teaching the children's art classes. So for kids different ages, I give them different topics and of course techniques and requirements. So for teenagers, I want them to work more on observation using pencil shading techniques. They can also have fun, playing with watercolors, like a very basic sense of light and shade. So most of my students are 8 to 13-year-olds, but I do have 2 little ones. Annie here, she's 6 years old and practicing drawing basic shapes like circles, squares, and practicing good coloring techniques. And this is painted by her 13-year-old brother, Bob. These shapes may be very easy, but it's not easy to make the shading look pretty realistic and sensational. It also trains students to be more patient. And then it's Sunday, the sky is opening up after the rain, and I decided to sketch the bouquet of red roses before they wither. And I just want to do the bouquet here on the left side of the page spread. And starting to draw the white heron, the wings and the bending neck, the eye and the beak, and the legs, very skinny. And I think these shapes are actually reeds and grass. Now I'm drawing the red roses one by one. So the prototype of these roses are in between spheres and cylinders. The opening is circular. The body of these flowers are spherical. And the petals snuggled together looks like swirls. Now I'm starting to paint the first layer of the red roses, not using solid red right away. This is permanent red, very diluted with water. And I'm rubbing a little harder on the permanent red to get a more concentrated version to start shading these red roses. So the window is on the right. As you can see, the right side of these flowers are of a brighter tone. I also mix a bit of permanent violet into permanent red to intensify the shading tone. And now I'm mixing Naples yellow with spring green to paint the grassy area behind the white heron. And mixing yellow ochre with spring green to paint the stalks holding the flowers. And for the first layer of the leaves as well. And as I always mention, white things in the world, they're always shaded with more or less gray. So I'm using diluted blue violet to spread over the general shaded areas on the white heron. Let it dry off. So while waiting, I'm using hooker's green mixed with a bit of burnt sienna into it to shade the stalks and the leaves. So the leaves being tucked inside, they are more shaded compared to the ones coming outwards. Now I'm using a slightly heavier tone of blue violet containing less water to shade the white heron a bit more. Now I'm drawing the table line and then using very expressive colors and brush marks to paint the red mahogany dining table. And now I'm using Cara d'Avanche brand water-soluble crayons, the blue and the violet, to color the background, and then using my water brush. Now you can see it's looking much smoother after it's being diluted. Don't forget the negative spaces between the stalks and leaves. And that's pretty much it for today's video. I'll see you around in the next one very soon, everyone. Enjoy your day. Bye.